present, the difference between 95% and 80%, so it's not the same thing to ask that question in Germany or in Saudi Arabia, but are not as significant as we usually assume. Point number one. Point number two, human rights are, in this, I agree with Buchanan. I mean, human rights are not the same things as moral rights, for many reasons, including the fact that there are already established patterns of appeal and the use of these rights. So what I'm saying is that you cannot go on the street and appeal to human rights if you are a big fan of Guantanamo. It simply doesn't work this way. It's, you know, you say, well, you know, my conception of human rights is that Guantanamo is okay. Yeah, I mean, you may make that argument, but it's simply not the case that people go on the street to say, oh, in the name of human rights, I want prisoners to be tortured. So I don't think that the appeal to the common idea of human rights in different individuals is as problematic as you were assuming. Yeah?
Okay, I have two questions. Maybe one question and a comment. But let me see. So, don't you think that the third option here about the justification of human rights, the political one, can be reduced to the first, the instrumentalist justification? Because it says something like that. You can sum up saying, look, human rights are just instrumental to international politics, to limit the state. So there is a kind of big interest behind only. And my comment is this. I'm a kind of sympathetic to the compatibilist justification. That's why I was asking you to repeat. Because I disagree that there is a kind of
Difference
they are conflict between, let's say, the normativity level and the kind of technical activity. Why? Because of course, we have to see this. We are discussing a philosophical question, and it's about the justification of human rights. So we have to be crystal clear also about a meta question about justification. Should we stop somewhere, or should we go to infinite in the chain of reasoning, or should we go around a kind of circle? And I think the best option is to be to clarify that we have to reach the hard rock, let's say, the foundation, something somewhere, at some point, and build from there. So I think that the non-instrumentalist justification is right to say we should stop somewhere. I think you mentioned Hegel yesterday, and it seems like to say that humans or persons have rights is the kind of ultimate justification that we can have. Because persons are free, are agents, they are equal, and full stop. But then we can say also this is a kind of self-evident premise. I think the American Declaration, if you take out the idea that
we take it
it's
as
self-evident that we are created from, take out the created from God, this self-evident truth that we are equal, free, and so on. So this is the justification. We don't need even to appeal Vatican to the notion of dignity, let's say, or something like that. That, in my view, presupposes a kind of theological
Teleological.
theological
Theological.
premise that we are in some way imago Dei, let's say, beings. So forget about the notion of dignity, but we can still think in these terms. There are some kind of intrinsic rights to personhood, full stop. So this is the kind of non-instrumental justification. And then we can think about a kind of in which sense these rights are useful for political or juridical or whatever roles. And for instance, I think that you made clear this point, there is no human right to democracy, but it looks like democracy is the best system to give the proper worth to human rights. So we can kind of infer or make compatible with a particular political system using the notion of human rights. So think about this. Which is the justification for democracy? It's because it respects what persons are in themselves, let's say. Persons are free beings, equal beings, and so on. So we appeal to this justification, and we should stop there. That's why I think that there is we are not conflating two levels. We are saying that both a kind of deontological justification is compatible with a kind of consequential or instrumental. So it's just a general comment. It's my personal way, let's say, of expressing that I'm sympathetic to this. First, to reduce the political, the third to the first. I don't see difference. And the second, to say that maybe the best way around the justification of human rights is to make these two paradigms to go together.
Yeah, let me start with the second because it's more difficult and rich. I don't think that you are defending compatibilism. What you are defending is what you said at one point, and that is the idea, the non-instrumentalist idea as it is currently practiced, that you have to stop somewhere. So that's your main intuition. I mean, even if you are neither an instrumentalist nor a political theorist, and you believe that some, let's call it, moral central or more than one moral values are the essence of human rights from which somehow we have to derive them, it's a mistake to think that you also need to ground these moral values that make the foundation of human rights, from which you infer. So basically that's what you have in mind. So let's assume that we have these moral values here that oh my god, can I write? Okay. Could be human dignity, the self-evident rights, the Declaration of Independence talks about rights of man and citizen, the Friend Declaration. We have those things, and then from this somehow, and here perhaps compatibilism comes with the help of some consideration of what we need, and given the creatures that we are, we need to eat, we need to, well, exactly.
Yeah.
You get to human rights, okay? But your main intuition is that we should not go one layer up here and find the ground of this stuff. Because otherwise we get into an infinite regress. If we ask for a foundation of human dignity, and I don't know, it could be autonomy, like Kant says, the fact that we are moral beings, then someone else might ask for the foundation of the fact that we are moral beings, and then you have to accept the fact of reason, basically, or something like that. So you say, look, let's not get stuck with this infinite regress. It's enough to realize, well, now I don't know how you go here. We are permitted to take this as a given because we have a strong intuition that we are all equal, that we are worthy creatures, that we have dignity. I mean, this is of course something that will come up also when we talk about Waldron. In fact, he has precisely this point. It is not as dismissive and critical as you are. He says, one way of conceiving of the foundation of human rights is precisely to look for this stuff. So you are not even happy when you have done this derivation, but you want to make a super derivation of this sort. So the one way of conceiving of the foundation of human rights is two tiers. You start from your rights, you go to the moral values that ground them, for example, human dignity, but the real foundation for you is how you move from human dignity to what grounds human dignity. Well, yeah, nobody likes infinite regress, right? We agree on that. Except that I'm not extremely convinced that it makes sense to even start the foundational business and end up saying, oh, you know, the foundation is that we already know that these values are compelling. At that point, you don't do the foundation. I mean, at that point, I like more grass. You know, forget about this foundational business. I mean, human rights have their own life even without the attention of philosophers. I mean, they are accepted mainly by people. We have a fairly coherent understanding of them. Nobody protests in favor of torture by appealing to human rights. Why should we enter this philosophical game? I don't know, that's one way of doing it. As I told you yesterday, and as also Waldron will be saying in a minute, one way to conceive of the silence of the official documents about the grounds of human dignity is precisely that there was a little bit of philosophical prudence, right? I mean, on the one hand we risk the infinite regress. On the other hand, the moment we say something about human dignity, we may offend the sensitivities, religious, moral sensitivities of other people. Okay, well, that's one way of going. I think that it's still, and in this I agree with Walter, I think it's still a worthy philosophical project to try to say something about the reasons why we are allowed to take these moral values as a given. I mean, even people who do not make the jump at this level, do not attempt to make the jump at this level, like working, sometimes they feel obliged to make that jump. Because as you know, working thinks that the idea of dignity and equality is the foundation of morality and therefore also of human rights. But at one point you find that he also feels the obligation to explain why humans have to be conceived of as equal and as worthy creatures. And the answer is that, you know, we are creatures that are capable of taking responsibilities for our lives. Which means that the reason why we are these kind of beings is that we don't simply react to stimuli that come from the environment, but we we are capable of making rational or perhaps simply conscious decisions on and therefore then take responsibility for what we have chosen in our actions. I mean, if this is not going up here, it sounds like it comes very close to try to find something here. Now, I mean, to jump a little bit ahead, what I found extremely appealing in using a Kantian notion of human dignity is that Kant explicitly wants to go up here. The ground of human dignity is moral autonomy. The reason why we are worthy creatures is that because we are capable of moral behavior. I mean, there is a straightforward answer. Of course, you might say, and now you have to show me that we really are capable of moral. I mean, you have to show me two things. Why being capable of moral behavior builds any dignity for me? Why is that the ground of a worth that I have? And Kant has his own answer. And most importantly, you have to show me that we are capable of moral behaviors, and that the problem of the second critique, that morality is not a phantom of the brain, that practical reason is pure, can be pure. Well, okay, fine. I've asked 1.5 million euros to the European Commission to ask precisely this question, to dig into this question. We'll see whether, I mean, they will be impressed. I doubt, but we'll see. So that's, I don't know whether this answers your point, but
no, I think that we could agree about this, that we should reach some level of a priori justification.
right?
Okay?
Yeah.
You go to Kant, I don't go there, but I have a kind of Kantian explanation to this, or a Wittgensteinian, if you want to, which says something like that. When you say we humans are persons and a person is free, we are expressing a grammatical proposition, not an empirical one. And a grammatical proposition is a clarification of what we mean by personhood. So from personhood I could infer human rights, but maybe animal rights if there are other non-human human beings who are persons, or even artificial agents in a near future, for instance. So to say a person is free, for me it's a grammatical proposition. If you understand this, that is categorically different from an empirical. So it's a kind of, I stop there.
It's not
because
analytical, but
yeah, it's not. It's a grammatical proposition. It's an ing proposition, if you want. Okay. So it's
no.
not.
So
it's not,
I guess we agree. We agree on the fact that we need some kind of a priori foundation.
Yeah.
I am the Kantian here, and I say that something could be said to show that we are moral beings. And of course, this is not something that you do through empirical science, because you don't look at, unfortunately, the freedom is precisely what escapes empirical inquiry, not to mention moral freedom. And you say, well, we don't need to go in that direction of a priori foundation. We can have a Wittgensteinian account in which, if we really understand the way in which ordinary language uses expressions such as freedom or people or persons or human beings, we already find in it pretty much all we need in order to get down here to human rights. Yeah. I'm glad.
Just to add something, it's not that I don't say that this is an a priori justification. I think that a Wittgensteinian could allow for that. The only difference is that, let's say, an orthodox Kantian, maybe you, would say that this a priori is necessary in an unconditional way. and a Wittgensteinian could say this is necessary but not in an unconditional.
Right, it depends
Maybe
on
this
the
is
language
maybe-
we speak,
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
It
yeah,
depends
of
on the
course,
form
yes.
of life we live
And
in.
the formula you are, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely, yeah. No, I know. I don't think I have nothing to comment on that. I agree with you that we both like an a priori foundation, but that our a priori foundations are different. Let me say something about the first question, whether the instrumental could be, that the political could be reduced to the instrumental. No, I don't think so. Unless we mean two different things by instrumental. I mean, yes, it's true that in the political interpretation of human rights are instruments of international politics. But in this orientation, human rights are not reducible to the interests that human beings have. There is no mentioning of the importance of these legal instruments for the protection of the fundamental interests that human beings have. In fact, sometimes the limitation of the authority of states could be very much against the interest of human beings. So they say, you know, I really don't care about what are the interests of human beings. I'm simply inviting you to focus on the role that today human rights perform. You know, if you ask me what is their normativity, well, the fact that they have normativity, because we really use them as tools to do things in the international scenes. So why are you asking me, Ras? I mean, human rights without foundation. We don't need foundations of human rights. Because human rights have their own life already, and they perform a normative function on international politics. So why do you ask about normativity? Okay, perhaps this is a good time to stop.